Psychic attack false flags is our topic. And I think that a lot of people have been going through this in the last couple of years. 2010, 2011 comes to mind. The increase in reports of the dream invasions. And my worldview being taken to a whole other level. And right in around those years, that's when my friend contacted me from California who teaches classes on psychic protection, particularly what he calls Clairvoyance 101. And I know there's a lot of people out there that believe that we are born without those abilities to have non-local awareness. However, there's lots of noises around here, so I try to keep my awareness around me. Every now and then looking at the top of the hills and looking at the horizon and coming out and stepping away from the computer, spending more time away from the computer and spending time speaking my truth, tapping into my truth, speaking from my heart and letting nothing stop me. And so I can remember being contacted by people, whether it been someone I had interviewed on my TV show at the time in Portland, Outside the Box, or people that I knew from in other ways. Not really given any specifics. But he told me what he saw and the type of attacks coming on my energy body and where it was coming from. And that it really wasn't some sort of a sign that I was doing something wrong, but more or less a sign that I was doing something right, especially in light of the depth, the magnitude of the attack on my person. I'd seen in my own life a lot of shifts in the content in my show. I think it was hitting on a far deeper level than 3 years earlier in 2006 or 2007. Started seeing a lot of things change in my living situation. Not to mention the fact that in 2009 I stopped officially working a regular job and I had started to move in a more independent direction, which is really what my energy needed, to not be bogged down in that restaurant world that I had spent so much of my youth in. It was no longer compatible for me to continue living a life as a slave, now going into deeper levels of information, knowledge. It was inevitable for me to eventually be on the path of moving from place to place to place, but for that to happen, it's like good luck, bad luck. Certain other uncomfortable things had to happen first. And so the experience of moving from place to place when I had the money, just simply because I was so different from some of the people that I was living with, it was almost as if from them to the people that I was working for to some of the women that I had dated, it was like everywhere I went, I was seeing the face of the Archon, experiencing the energy of the Archonic realms, because it's about energy. It's not so much about deities or placing any entities up on a pedestal. But this Archon frequency energy has been contaminating the planet in this last cycle. And the sun that amplifies us as human beings, it also amplifies other things up. It could also be that our energy is that much more valuable when it's energized by the sun, and when it's siphoned, when our prana is siphoned by those energetic beings, when our emotions are heightened, they feed off those emotions. It's like we are a free energy source to them, if we allow it. If we allow it. But it's done through emotions, through manipulating our emotions. And when we have these sunspots, when we have these geomagnetic storms, and by the way, there's a massive sunspot right now on the sun. It's being called a Halloween sunspot, and they're expecting a geomagnetic storm to come in tonight to tomorrow. This is going to continue to amplify those emotions. As well as many other things. It's a booster. The sun is a booster. It boosts all that's there. It's neither positive nor negative. It is boosting what is already pre-existing. And so we've seen in this last cycle, I think since the sunspots have kicked on in this solar cycle 24, I think we've seen an increase in civil unrest, social unrest, wars launching, rumors of wars, and strife in population. That includes relationships. I think people in their own relationship life have seen more strife since 2009, 2010. It's also during this period that we've seen the rise of the narcissist sociopathic mindset, and we've been asking ourselves, what the fuck? Where did this come from? Thomas Sheridan is saying in my interview with him, you can find on this channel, that he saw a rise in the amount of people searching for those terms, sociopath and psychopath and narcissist, around 2010, 2011, a rise in the amount of people searching those terms on Google, trying to understand psychologically, spiritually, what is happening to other people. It was in this time frame that I got more reports from some people that I was involved with, that they were having their dreams invaded by these voices and words saying things, disruptive things, throwing disruptive energy. It was also around that time period, 2007, 8, 9, people were saying that I was ending up in their dreams often. And it was at this time that I started to become very suspicious, because it did not make very much sense for me to be in all these people's dreams. It's one thing for someone to be thinking constantly about someone, but the vastness of it, I found to be And what I do know is that in my own experience, I've had things happen in dreams where I realize it's a simulation. It's not real. It's not something that's delivering truth or providing guidance. It's like a weird astral prison of sorts that one is in for a temporary period of time. And we can also see memes in our own world echo some of these truths. Nightmare on Elm Street, for example. It's the Archon of the dream realm. A series of movies where people are afraid of going to sleep. Not that I am afraid of going to sleep. Some of my experiences with dreams and nightmares are fairly minimal, including sleep paralysis, but I have experience with all of those things to a point. But ultimately, my dream state is one in which the things that are there that come at me are things worth noting. And sometimes it's a little heavier than other times. Depending on what's going on celestially, energetically, it definitely influences our dream states and how deep we can go in our awareness. And I will say a lot of things that I've become aware of that I've seen in those realms have been deceptions, have been programs, have been these false artificial realities that I found myself in, and I'm in this maze and I'm trying to get out, and there's nothing really spiritual about it other than the fact that it's another artificial reality. And it doesn't mean that there aren't some truths that we can stumble upon in our dreams, but for the most part, at this point, I will say that a lot of it is a simulation. And this is how people can be controlled. If they are duped into believing that what they're seeing in their dream is real, if they're duped in believing that which they are seeing in their dream is coming from their angels or their higher self, if they fail to understand how their dreams can be hijacked, and if they fail to understand that, whole families can be destroyed, relationships, whole populations can be targeted by these negative entities if those human beings are allowing themselves to be open to that type of influence. There's ways to protect yourself. Being close to nature, first and foremost, is the cornerstone of that, and it's probably one of the most neglected aspects of what is natural to us, to be in nature. It's one of the most neglected aspects of our lives collectively. It's one of the reasons why I've chosen to spend more time in nature, as well as others, is the type of peace and grounding that it brings us, protection that it brings us against the influence of the archonic realms. Now, this archonic energy can influence our imagination and our emotional state, which is why it's important to be grounded and put our intentions out there that our thoughts are to only be our own thoughts. The energy we work with is only to be our own energy. And I think that there are people out there that have directly served the archonic agenda without even realizing it. through their deeds and actions, through the giving of their own human energy as they get on that hamster wheel of life, thinking they're really somebody, as they play that role of authority, keeping others in line underneath them without realizing they are only doing what they are doing for a limited time only, while their energy is fresh and valuable. And so we have so many human beings that have been used as cannon fodder temporarily for these positions. When it comes to karma and things coming back to people, you got to think outside the box of just one lifetime. The confusion that some people are in is the confusion of wondering, well, how can certain people do certain things to other people and be rewarded in this world? People can and are rewarded for many, many years by the Archons while they still remain in the flesh. You got to be able to see that until their last dying days. If we're only going to look at things through this lifetime, we're going to see things through a pretty narrow McDonald's straw reality. We don't know that this life is all that there is. And the people that question whether or not we even have a soul, maybe it's because they're here on earth to develop one for the very first time. So the concept of it or other things or other energies affecting us, it's a new thing for them. It's a new concept for them. But for reasons I don't fully understand presently, these aren't new concepts to me. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm Alex Ansary, signing off November 2nd, 2015.